Seriously, Bud is brought to you by OmniSend. OmniSend is a top choice for email and SMS marketing on WordPress, perfect for WooCommerce shops. Easily connect with customers and send out awesome campaigns every day.
Hello, my name is Bree, and welcome to Seriously, Bud, a podcast featuring an unexpected conversation with someone in the WordPress community. And now it's time for my dad, Bud Kraus.
Thank you, Bree. You know, I had so much fun last week speaking with Aaron Campbell, I thought I would do this all over again. This week's episode is unlike any other episode I've ever done, and you're about to find out why. Now, I'll be back at the end to give you my thoughts about this week's episode. It's number 39, so here we go. Cory Miller, welcome to Seriously, Bud. I have been chasing you down for 6 months, and I'm totally tongue-tied because I don't know where to start with you. Hey, where do I even begin? I'm going to begin sort of at the beginning because, you know, I don't really know you, and we don't really know each other. Where are you now?
Oklahoma City.
Have you always been there?
Grew up in Oklahoma. I've been out to the state twice in my life, really living for any amount of time. But yeah, I'm an Okie.
Oh, yeah, you can hear it in your voice now. I can definitely hear it. Let me see. Who else might we know in Oklahoma? That would be Aaron Campbell.
Aaron Campbell, and I work with him at A2 Hosting, as well as Elise Alley, who's our lead of support. They're both in Oklahoma, too.
Oklahoma City, which we know is, I don't have to tell you, we know in 1990s what happened.
Yep.
So you have an airport there you can fly out of, right?
Yes.
You can go anywhere. That's kind of nice. You're married to Lindsay. I know that. How'd you guys meet?
So I was looking for a new place to live, and my aunt said, hey, you should call my friend we were friends in elementary school, and then we ended up working in a newspaper together named Amber, and I wanted to kind of live in a cooler part of Oklahoma City, which is called Midtown. So I called Amber, and she was like, well, actually, I've got a condo 2 doors down from me that's open. Now, my friend Lindsay was going to move into it, but let me just ask. And long story short, Lindsay did not know me, but she was okay with obviously letting me, live there. And so I signed the lease and everything, moved in. And then Amber had some dinner in the courtyard that we had, a little special place, invited me out there, and I got to meet the love of my life now, Lindsay Miller, for the past, we're going on 13 years.
Oh, you guys are just getting started. 13 years, I was just still dating my wife,
Yeah.
13 years is like, wow, I don't even remember. I mean, I'm like 42, 3, whatever.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I don't know how anybody can stay married for like, an hour, get alone 13 years or 43 years. It's hard.
Those of us who've been married know it's not easy, but it's a great thing. And especially if you last as long as you and your wife have, for sure, together. I mean, building a great life together.
The thing is, if you're both really stubborn, you'll hang together. So, I mean,
that's good.
And if you're really committed to this project, the marriage, that even when things get really bad, and man, they can get bad, there's all kinds of things where marriages go off the tracks, don't I know, that one party has to pull it back onto the tracks. You always hope that one party will. And that they'll figure out a way, whether they get outside help or whatever it is. Like I say, in my case, it was just stubbornness to stay together.
Got to have a healthy dose of that, I think. You're sharing some wise words here.
Well, that's what happens when you get old. I'm still waiting, I'm waiting. When is this going to happen? I thought it's just a matter of staying committed. And it's almost like I just felt that marriage vows were so, important that I wasn't going to break them because, we were going through a rough time or something like that. And I think she felt that way too. And we're on a pretty good glide path now. It took a long time to get there. And I'll tell you one other thing, and maybe you find this to be true, is that you never know what's going on in someone else's marriage. You're always the outsider looking in, no matter, even if they're your best friend, you just don't know. Isn't that true?
So true. Yeah. And unless you're in that relationship, absolutely. I think I've certainly been shocked sometimes when friends are like, you think they're in bliss and the next thing you know, things aren't. And you're like, there's way more below the surface of every relationship that happens. But I think going back to your point about stubborn, I think you need a healthy dose of that. Stubborn, like we're just going to stick in it. So I'll just talk for me and not Lindsay, but we are both, our parents have been divorced. And I now look at it 48 years into this whole gig and go, yeah, mine shouldn't have been together. But yeah, it's just tough. You hit life, you hit the ups and you hit the downs, which is very similar to the ride I did with entrepreneurship. You know, we call it a roller coaster. I think relationships, just even if you're, oh God, we're magically so aligned and compatible and all that stuff, then life happens, you know?
Right.
What do you think?
Go ahead. Oh, you're going to ask me a question, huh?
Yeah,
It doesn't work that way. Okay, what do you got?
40 plus years of marriage, besides stubborn, what are the keys?
Hey there, pardon my interruption. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about the WP.world. It's the place to go to find out what people in the WordPress world are doing and let others know what you're doing too. That's the WP.world. Now back to the show. Boy, that's a good question. I will tell you because so many things did not go right, so I can talk from that perspective. A big key is that the two of you are on the same page about how to raise children. Oh, that's a big one. And we were not on the same page. You know, I thought we would be when we went into, having kids and stuff. As it turned out, that was always and still is a problem. We both recognize that. I think that's key. And the second one is communication. Guys like me, I don't know about you, but guys like me, we don't want to talk. We'll talk like we're talking now. When it comes to talking to our wife and we have to show vulnerability, I don't like to do that or give her the impression that I might be wrong. What? Me wrong? Just understanding that, I could be wrong and saying those words out loud. We have now kind of come to the place where if we need to talk to each other, we'll say, hey, I got to talk to you about something, which is really good. And not to do it when you're angry and threatening and those are not the time to have those conversations. Have those conversations when things have simmered down, when you've simmered down, when she has simmered down, and you can just talk like you're talking to an old friend because that's what they are, really.
Yeah. And those years of being stubborn and sticking together through things, I think it's through those things to me. Okay, so mine, we all bring baggage in from our past.
Sure.
Mine is, okay, we have a disagreement about anything and like, okay, well, oh God, she's going to leave me, And so bring that baggage in, now recognizing that after doing my own work for years, mental health, really therapy, being around some amazing professional clinicians and things, and learning about trauma and different things, the little T trauma, and to go like, okay, I have some work to do. One is just with any human, being together all the time, living together all the time, and we add kids to the mix, then you add work to the mix. And gosh, I'm so thankful for Lindsay because she's just been here, stayed. Even when I'm like, oh God, I'm not following, and she's like, I love you. We're going to get through.
Yeah, I don't know Lindsay, but she sounds a little bit like my wife, Arlene, because she was always there, even when things were so tough. And we're going to talk about that stuff because I have never talked. Well, there's one thing that you and I think have a lot in common probably is our struggles with mental health and mental illness. And although I've never talked about it, I'm ready because of you, inspired by you to talk about these things publicly because I know that you have. And in my case, it was really, I don't know about you, but it probably is similar, struggling with depression for years. And it's almost genetic. All the males with the last name Krause have struggled with depression, whether they've recognized it or not, or they admit it, they've had their problems with it. It just takes a long time to, whether it's therapy, medication, exercise, whatever, it's the whole thing, that helps you get an understanding of what causes this. It's funny, I in thinking about you and what we're going to talk about today, I heard a great expression, which I'm sure you've heard too, a high-functioning depressive. There is no such thing, in my opinion. When you're in that state, one of the things that at least I found was that you're doing an awful lot to cover up the fact that you're miserable.
Yep. So true.
Yeah. So you've been there.
Oh, yeah. Depression. I think I'll say this generally speaking. I said, we talk about ups and downs of life. Like things are going to happen. We're going to lose people. We're going to lose things.
I know.
Bad things are going to happen. So
yes,
it's all of our struggle at some point in our life for sure. But yes, for mine, definitely dealt with depression and, finding reasons why and trying to understand how to solve those or accept those and move on with the guidance of professionally trained and licensed counselors. But I want to go back to one thing, and I'm so glad that you felt inspired by sharing my story to feel safe and inspired to share your own.
Yeah.
Well, the caveat is I signed up for this. 2015 is when I started really sharing this publicly, but I signed up for it. I knew what I was getting into. And I had a sense of safety around sharing the stories that I did.
Right.
I give a couple caveats. They're not the stories of today in this moment.
Right.
They're the stories from the past that I've worked on enough to feel safer, more confident in myself. But really, truly, the intention there is to obliterate the stigma of mental health, that we can't talk about those things.
Correct.
That we do suffer in silence and solitude.
Yeah. Boy, ding, ding, ding. No kidding to the idea. Rosalind Carter was one of my heroes because she was one of the very first public people to say mental illness is just a illness. If you have diabetes, it's not something to be ashamed of. I think once people start to understand that, it became a lot safer and easier to talk about this. But I have not really talked too much about this to my family. So if anybody's hearing this might be a little bit of a surprise. Or friends, they may say, oh, I didn't know that about you. People do say that because you spend so much energy trying to put on a happy, we just sit around and go, I'm going to write a book about how depressed I am. And then I thought, no one's going to read this. Nobody wants to read about a depression. But then when you think about and you hear well-known people, successful people have suffered with depression, I felt, this isn't just about any one thing. And one of the things that kind of drove me, I found that made me depressed was feeling that I wasn't worth anything to anyone. And I think that's really one of the big drivers. I don't know if you do or not, but when you feel that others don't feel that you have any worth, you're in trouble. That is a real problem.
That was real parallel. I think you opened the door for this, so I'll just walk into it. But I started sharing in 2015 about things that were 5+ years prior. In 2021, I believe, 2022, I'm trying to remember, I had a full-on burnout, crash and burn.
I think I heard about this.
Couldn't work really like I had for all of my career since I was 16. I've had a job for 6 months. And that was wrecking on my self-worth because I enjoy work. I like work. And then it was part of my identity as an entrepreneur, but also just doing work and feeling useful and contributing and exciting and fulfilled about those things. And that was taken away for 6 months. You talk about depression, you talk about getting down into the dark, is those things that we're really attached to and they get pulled away. And so, yeah, absolutely. I can resonate and share my hand. Yeah, I felt the darkness,
Cory, in talking about this now, because you are removed from that experience, right? You're not this today.
Say I'm still recovering.
Is that so?
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
See, I feel removed. I'm talking about this and I'm thinking who are you talking about? This is not you today. And it is not. But so I'm trying to recall what it was like to be, when you say, it's so funny, those words, suffering from depression, right? I mean, it's so true that the suffering, the darkness, the hopelessness, you just are just trying to cling on to life, or maybe you're not even trying to cling on to life, or maybe you're just thinking all the time about suicide. I mean, that is sort of the natural outcome of depression is suicide. That's what you're thinking. I have to tell you one thing, and boy, I've never said this publicly, but I spent an awful lot of time in my life thinking about that subject and how I was going to do it. Yeah. What are the different methods? And God, if I try to do it, I would probably fail at it. And then I'd have a mess, on my hands. And it was something that I thought about a lot. Now I have a younger sister. She's slightly younger than me. And one day she said to me, this was 25 years ago. And she said, have you ever thought about suicide? I've never thought about it. That's what she said. She didn't give me a chance to answer the question. She just said, I never think about it. And then we went on. And I said to myself, that's all I think about. She didn't stop to hear the answer. It's something that resonated with me for a very long time. And then I also had a cousin who once said to me, do you know that everybody in our family is depressed? And that's when I started to realize, oh yeah, my father, your father, this one, this cousin.
Number one, I want to say thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, particularly in this public venue. I would say that even if it was just me and you talking, but thank you. When you say those things and open those things up to me, and everybody else is getting to listen, but to me, I go, he's struggled. I'm not alone. So I have my own stories. And when you do that, there's a magical gift you give me, which is I'm not alone. I've got this human that goes, no, everybody hurts and it's okay. And that was my thing. That was the reason why I started sharing is like I had achieved some level of perceived success. I'm using those words carefully. And I thought, screw it. I'm going to say the things that need to be said, which is I had been in counseling for, I can't remember how long at that point, but a while. Dealt with some heavy issues, dealt with some conflict. That's what was really tough times in life and somehow gotten through those. And with the help of a professionally licensed counselor, it was just, listen, I don't think it helps us as a species not to say the thing that we all know is true. Everybody hurts. There's going to be dark and down times. And so that was number one as you were talking. And the other thing is, nobody comes through unscathed. Even the best parenting experience, we're taking something from the past. That's just part of life. I was talking with my therapist one time about, trauma. And I went down that well, by the way, because I was trying to understand what you were saying, my own trauma, the things that happen, the wounding is, I think, the way I've gotten to work with some incredible clinicians doing cutting edge neuroscience and deep recovery work with people suffering from addiction and other mental health issues that you mentioned. And when I heard trauma, I go, tell me more about what that means. My counselor was saying as I was I was going down this well of understanding trauma and its effect on us and the body and emotions and social components to all those things and how we walk through life. We're not going to go unscathed. And he was like, isn't all life kind of a form of trauma? Like, we're going to go out. Somebody's going to cut us off at the street. We're going to get the wrong thing from the drive-through. We're going to have these downtimes, lose a job. We're going to do these things. And like life, that's part of the experience.
Yeah.
The other thing you say, here's the third thing I want to mention. We're talking about depression and or suicide. Two things I don't ever take lightly. I take those extremely serious because we're talking about life.
Yeah.
We're talking about life and death. We're talking about a critical edge that a lot of people get to. And that's where I go, please, if you're hurting, I know you mentioned resources that are out there. 988 is the mental health hotline.
That's right.
But seek the support and care of a mental health licensed and experienced counselor, professional counselor. I don't take those lightly, but I've experienced them.
Yeah, let me just say one thing. This is not the typical Seriously Bud show. That's for sure. This is supposed to be a little fun, but
like really
it's okay.
serious.
This time of the year, this isn't Seriously Bud. This is Serious Bud. I want to say, when I look back now and I think, had I killed myself 20 years ago, you would have missed the best part of your life. And that's what I would have missed. I am so glad I did not do that because I would have missed seeing my children get older, seeing my grandchildren, my grandboys. Are you kidding? Coming to a place where I love the work that I do, the people I work with. Oh, it's so fulfilling. You would have missed all that, buddy. You would have missed that. You would have died a miserable human being, and the only thing anybody would have remembered about you was that you killed yourself. That's it. That's what you would have been known for. That's it. And people being angry at you, and people, that's all. People would be mad at you for doing what you did. And you would have hurt a lot of people. You would have damaged them severely. I would have missed, maybe not the last 20 years, but let's say the last 10 years, last 10, 15 years, best part of my life is now that's what I would have missed. So anybody out there that's listening to this, think about what I just said, please. Or if you know somebody, help them because there is the possibility. If you kill yourself, there is no more possibility of things getting better. You're done. But if you stick around, good things just might happen. And I'm not really an optimistic guy. I'm sort of like, my wife says I'm a pessimist but I'm not. I'm really a realist. I just take things reality. But, getting through all this is like, it's just rewarding. And the fact that you and I could talk about it. So here, listen, I'm thinking like when you're talking, So you're telling me that when you were building iThemes, the company, and iTheme security and all that, you were not a happy guy. Is that a fair thing to say?
I would say definitely not. I mean, I don't think we all are all the time for sure, but I definitely had big struggles during my iThemes tenure for sure. And that was 11 years from start to finish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When we sold the company and I kind of stayed with the new company about a year and left, I left my team, that I'd built and gathered, recruited and loved on, supported and over 10 plus years. And that was a tough time leaving, one, my childhood dream, being able to build a business. Second, the team. First, the team, the people. Second, the dream. And so, yeah, when they therapist, clinician will walk through the battery of questions and talk about depression, you just look and go, yeah, when things, big, huge changes, or those things you just kind of live with over a set period of time. But I'm definitely not a clinician, but I would say, yes, I've struggled with depression off and on my entire life in some ways. Even if I didn't know at the time I was in that state, looking back for sure. And it's something I try to keep aware of. I don't think it was chronic, mine particularly, but definitely for seasons. I'm not saying season, but seasons of time where it was like, okay, where you're in the dark. And I go, so during the burnout time, I was like, everything I built, my identity, my self-affirmation, my fulfillment in life kind of felt like it got taken from me. I was like, well, I came up with the mantra for me, which is just keep breathing, which I think is funny because if you're not thinking about breathing, your body just breathes on its own, right? Subconsciously, it just moves. So I go, it was a funny little thing for me to say, well, just got to keep breathing because that's all I can do at this moment is just keep breathing. I mean, part of that is being intentional about the breath, but that's about all I can do right now. And the only thing I can do that I can try to just keep is just keep breathing. Just keep going. Just one step. Waking up in the morning is an accomplishment. Those times, I'm very familiar with those times.
I don't know about you, but I've always had, I don't have it anymore, but I've always had a hard time this time of the year with the days being shorter, more darkness every day.
Yes.
Oh, depression could be triggered by like anything. And it would take months to come out of it. And then even when I came out of it, I wasn't really happy. I mean, is happiness the opposite of depression? I don't know. But when you feel like killing yourself, that's not a good thing.
Right.
If you are preoccupied that, you need help. You do. Because you could do some damage, And fortunately, I didn't do that. Now, you mentioned a minute ago your team that you put together. So it's time to do a little name dropping here. And I know two of them, Tim Jacobs, which we've talked about, right? Timmy.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, we have.
You said Tim and it threw me off. Timothy, yes.
Yeah. Tim. Timothy, and who's, I know him pretty well. And Nathan, what's Nathan's last name?
Nathan Ingram.
Right, Nathan Ingram, who I met in Canada last year, and he's a funny guy.
Or we met,
yeah. In fact, I did not know that I would used to go to every year you had like this security week.
Yes.
And I didn't know he was the voice of security week. And so I finally put the two together and go, oh, I know that voice.
Yes.
And so I know Nathan. In fact, I have to get him on the show.
You should.
How many people worked? And this is the time we could talk about WordPress. Okay. In case you don't know, WordPress is software that is used to make websites. It's very popular. Okay. So now let's talk about WordPress. And you had a company initially it was called, well, tell me a little bit about it.
iThemes.
Right.
And we started out doing premium themes or commercial themes, whatever you want to call it, in 2008.
Right.
There's a couple of long-time companies that started during that time with themes and kind of pushed out the product side of WordPress, commercial product side, and plugins and themes. And we started with themes, and then next year or two really started pushing more into plugins. And our biggest back then plugin was called Backup Buddy.
Oh, yes. I used it and taught it many times. I have to ask you a real quick question. Is there a theme, I'm sure there is, that you guys created that I would have heard of?
We had iThemes Builder and we had Flex themes. Those were very, very early themes.
Okay.
Before, this was before, let's say, Beaver Builder, Elementor.
Yeah, I was around in 2009. I know, I was there, Yeah.
So we were trying to solve that issue. We'd build a theme and somebody say, can I have the sidebar on the left? And this is telling you how far back it goes, but 17, 18 years now. And so Flex Teams was our first iteration of that, then Builder. But then you see things like Bid Builder and Elementor. That was the dream we were trying to head with those products.
Yeah.
But with the success of Backup Buddy, we really just doubled down on plugins.
But then you did the security. Didn't you do this iTheme security? What happened? So you morphed into iTheme security, correct?
That was just a product. We just kept the company iThemes, even though people would laugh and go, "You really don't sell themes." We actually still did.
That's right. I heard this. Yeah.
80% of our business was plugins. And so, yes. And then we acquired Better WP Security, rebranded it as iTheme Security at the time and launched that. Those are the two big blockbusters we had over my tenure there with 11 years. Now iThemes is called Solid WP, rebranded under Liquid Web.
And now you're at A2 Hosting. What do you do there?
My official title, the one I took and really they created for me, is called Chief Evangelist. What that means is I am the lead of our agency community efforts that we call our agency success team. So we're focused on helping agencies win and grow, obviously be served well by our hosting and support, but really get to focus on agencies. And I love that because I'm not an agency owner, but I'm married to one. Some of my best friends are agency owners. Mm-hmm. My role really is focusing on that customer part of our base and building relationships and helping serve them. But long answer to your question.
And they're based in Chicago. Is that right?
Well, the HQ is technically Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
But we're a fully remote company.
Yeah, that's what I figured. You're all over the place.
Yep.
And you're in, I mean, that's a very competitive space. Everybody's gunning for that agency business. Very much so. If that's because I talk to everybody in that space, that's what everybody's looking for.
I say this all the time to our agency owners, friends, and partners. Everybody wants to talk to you, and for good reason. You should and can have a voice because you're the customer. Every hosting company, every product company wants to talk to you. And so our part of that is just building long-term relationships that help them grow and do what they need to do and see how we wrap around that. Of course, is we're their hosting team. My part is, but we have other stuff we can help. So we do coaching, consulting with marketing and business. That lends to my background that I offer to our partners. And it's truly your success, our success. Like if they sell more projects, get more recurring maintenance plan clients, we win too. So it's a great alignment.
Now, all right, enough of this WordPress stuff. Back to our lives, okay? And not the depression stuff. We did all that stuff already, and probably nobody's listening at this point. So let me ask you about, you have kids, right?
2 children.
You told me that you had to change our recording today because of something to do with passports?
Yes.
So let's have that story.
We're going on a cruise in a couple of weeks, and my wife's going to kill me for saying that on a podcast. But
oh, come on. She's not going to listen to this.
It's a great family trip for us. Kids are confined to, secure boat, cameras everywhere. They've got their phones and stuff. And it's just a nice little family vacation. We're taking my mother-in-law and as well. And it's just a nice time. But the kids had passports at 1 because Lindsay loves to travel. I love to travel with her, basically follow her everywhere. She has a fancy dream for something. I want to go. So, found out the passports are the kids' passports because they're on a different renewal schedule. So we're bumping up. So we were like, okay, I have to drive to Dallas and go to the passport office. I had to do this a couple of years ago in El Paso. I let it go too far. I had to fly to El Paso for the day, which is a very lovely town, by the way.
Right.
But one that wasn't on my bucket list.
Where are you going to be cruising to?
I think Curacao, Aruba, Costa Rica, Panama, and it's a bigger cruise, 11 days. All right. We're excited. It's something for everybody. We get to see, Lindsay and I love to see new cultures, experience new cultures and countries. And there's a couple in here we've not been to Costa Rica before. So excited about getting off the boat, seeing that and just having some time.
Have you cruised before?
I have. I think this is my 6th cruise. I actually started.
Wow. Well, you're a cruiser.
First. Well, I didn't start. I kind of got adopted into it. My friend, Brian Gardner, early on, big cruiser with Royal Caribbean and invited me. And it's a funny little fact. Again, Lindsay's going to kill me bad and it's all your fault. But I've actually been of the 6 times I've been cruising, I've been on the same boat 4 times and not intentionally. So I know that boat very well. And actually on the same route, I think 3 of the 4 times. And not by intention or purpose. It's an all-inclusive floating hotel for me and the kids, and we all get something from it. So I love cruising.
I'm going to have to do it. I've never done it. I'm not a cruiser. I like to travel. Do you pick it up in Miami? Is that where you start?
Fort Lauderdale, you can tell I know all the details. I'm like, I know we're leaving on what day we're leaving. And I like to show up and pack the day before, So I'm not good on the details. Lindsay is our travel agent in the house.
Oh, I know what, I tell you, Lindsay reminds me of Arlene. So I call Arlene the travel concierge.
Yeah.
There is nobody better to travel with than my wife. She has every minute planned. I mean, it's scary.
She's probably like Lindsay. She has, I think, almost as much fun planning it as she does going on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, let's just go. And
yeah, well,
there.
Arlene will bitch about it, though. She'll say, I'm the only one that's planning this. I'm the only one. This is not my thing, We'll go to Spain. I want to see 3 things, and the rest of the time is yours. And we went to Spain a whole bunch of years ago now, and I did have a couple of things, and the rest was hers. One day we were in Barcelona, and after the 17th event, she says, okay, we don't have to do any more. Thanks. I mean, literally, from this to this to this to this, and of course, she had it all mapped out where to go, and I mean, it was insane. We travel a lot with my son's in-laws. And we take a lot of trips with them. We went to Santa Fe recently. We met up with Robbie Adair. I'm sure you know
Santa
Robbie.
Santa Fe is one of my favorite cities. New Mexico is definitely one of my favorite places.
Yeah, that's why we went, because they had never been there. And I said, and I've been there a couple of times. And
did you go to Meow Wolf?
Haven't gone. I didn't go. Everybody told me you got to go.
Oh.
And then they said, we're not going to tell you what it is.
It's hard to explain, but it's awesome. We went to the original in Santa Fe. In fact, Lindsay and I were married in New Mexico in Taos, and we honeymooned.
We went to Taos. That's where you were married.
Uh-huh.
Yes, very nice. The plaza, the whole thing is just beautiful.
The plaza is fantastic.
I wanted to move there a bunch of years ago, but it is very expensive. And, my wife wanted to live near the kids, which they're all in central New Jersey, which is where we're going to be moving to. I think an hour south of here. There's nobody we know in Santa Fe, and it gets to the it's rough.
The older I've gotten, the more I want to be closer to the friends and family. It's tough. So that's why we've had, in the past, we had a cabin in New Mexico, and now we've got land. We sold that, but now we've got some land and want to still dream to do that. But like the reality is probably not going to move there if kids are off and wherever. We're probably going to be one closer to our children when they get older.
What happens if they split up?
I know. My daughter always likes to ask me about that. She was just having that conversation with me this week. Well, what if I live here? And I was like, honey, we'll figure it out.
How old are your kids?
10 and almost 12.
Are they both girls?
Boy is oldest, Callaway, and girl Lillian, 10 is like my daughter.
And do they get along?
Like siblings do. I think deep down they actually love each other.
Right.
I think sometimes they just like to quarrel and fight with each other.
What about you? Do you have brothers, sisters?
I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and my middle brother, Travis, is both in some form of law enforcement. Her brother, Travis, is in the Army Corps of Engineers, been a late manager, and then in Oklahoma. And then my youngest brother, Matt, is a special agent with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations. And I'm really proud of both of them and their work in the world. And I'm the black sheep. And I pay my taxes.
The black sheep. Yeah, right.
Well, I was just telling somebody, most of my family background, a lot of people, either military or police. And I go, well, I'm a business person.
Yeah.
I pay my taxes.
When you went to school, what did you study?
Journalism.
Did you really? Where'd you go?
University of Central Oklahoma. Can I do a humble brag? I got a full ride scholarship, because there's another side of the story that's, I think, funny. And
a Fulbright scholarship. Keep going.
Full ride. I'm not that smart.
No, whatever. What's the difference?
On leadership. So I was in high school, newspaper editor, student kind of for all that stuff, did a bunch of things. And then this university had this thing. And I was like, I thought it was either sports or academics, neither of which I was going to get a scholarship for. But I went to study my first love, which is journalism.
I went to a journalism school. Ever hear of Ohio University in Athens, Ohio? It's a big J school. And I didn't study it. Yeah. It's got a lot of communications, radio, TV, journalism. It's big. Journalism is definitely a love of mine. I do a lot of writing, actually. WordPres. So WordPres stuff.
That's how my story got started with WordPres, is starting a blog. Like going back, because I worked for 3 daily newspapers, magazine, eventually got into more PR. And then I was a communication director for a couple of years for a couple of churches, actually, and then started iThemes. But I still look at the 30-year career almost I've had, a 30-year career, as publishing is my broad category over all of it. Started with journalism, newspapers, magazines, business, communications, used all of that background for iTheme's benefit. I mean, we were blogging, doing SEO content, at the beginning, email marketing, connecting all those, and then WordPress, is democratizing publishing. So
Yeah.
it's been a banner that like a constant theme over my 30-year career.
We have come to that point in the show. I think I've overextended my stay here. I want to ask you, who do you think I should have on Seriously, Bud?
Gosh, I got a bunch of names for you. I'm not sure who you've already talked to.
Oh, I'll let you know.
I would say Kimberly Lepari from Valet.
Okay, I don't know her.
Oh, you're missing out. She is an incredible leader, entrepreneur, known Kimberly for a long time.
Oh, wait a minute. What does she do?
She is the CEO and owner of Valet.io, which is one of the first WordPress maintenance agencies. Really, I think helped define that. I wouldn't say they're a maintenance agency, but anyway, they helped create, in my mind, along with Ryan Sullivan, Zach Kerr, and others. But Kimberly is a true leader, been an organizer for several WordCamps, passionate, sharp entrepreneur, sharp business person, and leader. She's been very involved in WordPress and then has a great agency and team and love the way she thinks and leads. So Kimberly would be one.
I'm going to give you one that I thought you might say, and maybe you'll help me get him, was Brian Gardner.
Okay.
Yeah, I obviously I know who he is, and I would like to have him on the show.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to probably ask you to put me in touch with one or the other.
You bet.
Cory, have a wonderful trip. Thank you for giving me really the chance to talk about something that I never talk about. And also, of course, sharing your story. There's a lot of material. We just scratch the surface, as they say, but it's not always easy to talk about these things.
Yeah.
But you are the perfect person to have done this with. I know that.
Well, thank you. Thank you again. I want to say one thing about it.
Sure.
I think when people hear your story, some of my story, I think the message is you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like everybody hurts. So that's number one. The second, though, is just as powerful, which is do not go it alone. You're struggling with those things?
Yeah.
Seek support now.
Right. Don't be ashamed. It's because it's like any other illness. If you had diabetes, you wouldn't say, okay, I'm just going to do this by myself. Same thing.
Exactly. There's people that love you and care about you and probably need to know, and they're not licensed, trained professionals, but at least you have some support to get there to talk to someone that can help you work through those issues and get the help and support you need. And that's my story.
Thank you, Cory, and thank you for a very different episode of Seriously Bud. I really appreciate it. Take care. I want to thank Cory Miller in the most sincerest way I can for giving me the opportunity and comfort zone to share a very personal story. For anyone out there who is struggling with depression and suicide, you're not alone. You really aren't. And if you need to, make sure you dial that number, 988. And if you know someone needs help, tell them that number. It's 988. So until next time, thank you for your time.